Hi there. Welcome back to another episode of Going For It with Becker. In this episode, I'm sitting down with an esteemed guest and a personal friend of mine, Keith Ard. Keith is the president of Remax Gold and Gold Nation, an organization that manages nearly 3,000 agents across 130 offices in 8 states. I've known Keith for a decade, and I can tell you he's one of the most resilient, determined, and high-energy leaders I have ever encountered in this business. He possesses a unique brand of wisdom, a combination of corporate scale, and a servant mindset that allows him to see the marketplace with a clarity that most people miss. We cover a lot of ground in this conversation. We talk about the great reset of the last few years and how serious agents are finding new veins of opportunity. We dive into the future of the brick and mortar real estate offices and why they are not dead. But we also discuss why they must evolve into a marketing and community hubs to survive long term. We also get into a heavy-hitting debate on AI and discuss why human charisma, warmth, and competency are the only things that will protect your commission in a world full of bots. If you want to know where the industry is actually headed from someone sitting at the center of the storm, you cannot miss this episode with Keith Ard. Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of Going For It with Becker. Today I have a guest, an esteemed guest, a personal friend of mine, somebody who I often have conversations with to get a feel of what's going on in the marketplace, because he is at the center of it, and that is Keith Ard, who is one of the main managers, if not the main manager, at Remax Gold or Gold Nation, where they have, I believe, over 2,600 agents. They are, if not the largest Remax franchise, number one or number two, and they just have an amazing business. And I work closely with Keith. Sorry for the long introduction here, Keith, but I worked closely with him a number of years ago, and truly, I don't think I know a manager that works harder, that's more connected to his sub-managers and the agents in the business. He just does a wonderful job, which is evidenced by the growth of the organization, because when I met him, they were at about 1,000 agents or maybe 800 agents. So Keith Ard, welcome to another episode. This is going to be a great one of Going For It with Becker, and thank you for doing this.
Well, James, honored to be with you. And yeah, our friendship now goes back really about a decade now, which is hard to believe that time has flown by very quickly. But, you know, as the president of Remax Gold in Northern California and Nevada and the chief revenue officer across our multi-state footprint, we've learned an awful lot over the last, for me, 22 years in the organization. Going back in time, I came to the organization through an executive role in the wireless business. So I had about 16 years of expanding responsibility, building teams, high producing teams across multi-states in wireless. And then I took an off-ramp thinking that I was just simply going to sell and run a team in real estate. And that lasted a week. I met our ownership of our company, and they asked me to launch our company in Solano County 22 years ago. And the rest is a bit history. Now I am the president of the company. I run the day-to-day organization. Northern California, of about 1,200 agents in Northern California and Nevada. And then I lead all things revenue, all things growth, all things merger acquisitions across our multi-state, which is now in 8 states, 8 Western United States. Close, right about 3,000 associates when you add it all up, and over 130 doors. And we're just getting started, James. So it's kind of exciting. Been married.
So 130 different offices is what
130
you mean,
different offices and team offices. And important to note, all of that, I am still married to my wife of 37 years. I have 2 daughters and 5 grandkids that keep me young as well. So a lot going on in my world. I'm team building here and I'm team building at home constantly. So there you
Yeah,
go.
there you go. Different inputs for team building at home versus in the
Yeah,
office.
don't
I'm
don't
quite sure.
bring the president title home. No, the president of my home is my wife, so she gets the
Yeah,
honors of that. Yes,
yeah.
she manages me there. So yes.
Okay. Well, let's talk about offices for a second since you brought it up. When I first started in the industry, the offices were full. Now you could shoot a cannon through them and not hit anybody without a problem. Tell me about the office environment at most of the Remaxes. Are they empty? Are they busy? Are they full? What do you see at the Remax level office, or at least the Remax Gold office level, compared to maybe a traditional Caldwell Banker or maybe some of these other offices
Yeah,
that still have brick and mortar, if you will?
yeah. Well, I mean, we believe in brick and mortar, always have. However, brick and mortar has changed. We all go back about 5.5 years ago, and the world changed. And it took about 18 months to get through that cycle where offices were really not even necessary. We believe that the footprint that we've built in our offices and the type of agent that we partner with, there is still a strong audience for the office. Now, it is not what it was maybe 5 years ago when maybe 2/3 of an organization would use an office on a weekly, monthly basis. Now we're a fraction of that. But the value of the office, the communal value where people come together and they come together to learn, the collaboration that comes from that, we really believe in. And our leadership is now spread out across our offices, not 1-to-1, but maybe 1-to-3, 1-to-2 offices. So it's more of a community of agents that have
So meaning
multiple
you have
doors.
managers now that maybe manage 3 different offices in a
Yeah,
region.
2 to 3 doors, 100 to 125 relationships. And once again, I say the word relationship because the secret sauce, when I get asked about a Remax Gold and Gold Nation, the largest Remax in the world, is what's our secret sauce? And I have to say it's our people. We have great people. We serve. We have a servant mindset and we serve. So we know that our agents serve consumers. Our consumers are first our agents and our brokers. And then we are supporting to their consumer, which is the customer, the end user, buyer, seller, commercial decision maker. And so understanding your lane then can build value back into the buildings. So what do you do with the building? Well, a place to come learn. Now, we're not teaching brand new licensees as a strategy within our universe. We're more about the productive agent. So we're kind of that destination brokerage that once you've learned how to sell, you wind up in a Remax environment because we respect the entrepreneur. We allow you to self-brand. We allow you to brand teams within our environment. So we believe that what we can bring together in resource helps folks, whether they be individual or whether they be collaborative teams, have a place to be, a place to meet the client, and a place to reference when you're in a presentation to a consumer in a local market. Because Remax, of course, global brand, but real estate is local and hyper local, as you know, James. It's where are we now, and what's our presence in that market. So whether it be market share or whether it be able to tell a consumer that we have 60 doors across Northern California, and we built that organization over 33 years to serve you, consumer. And we have amazing agents that work in each of those environments and great support. So you put that in the context of a seller or a buyer, it builds strength and it gives them confidence that you're a company they can lean on. They already know the brand, but what does it look like local? So we really use the offices maybe more as marketing now as well, part of our marketing message and our value proposition.
That's an interesting thought. I was just thinking about who I believe your top producer has been for years and years, Kim Puccini.
Yeah.
Does she work out of an office, or does she work out of home primarily?
Yeah, well, I would say 50-50. She has a beautiful office environment in our Fair Oaks location, and she has a team. Her support is in that office more than she is in the office. But she is in that office frequently. She uses it as a resource center. Occasionally we'll meet clients there, but not as a strategy. We have other folks across Gold Nation, other top producers, top luxury Remax agent in the world out of our Southern California company, Remax One, is Jordan Cohen. He is a, Inman, a top award winner. He is a top Remax luxury specialist, and he uses brick and mortar. He and his team are there 5 days a week.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a correlation with production and the use of an office across the industry?
Yeah, I think if you study agent productivity in general and broker productivity, what you're going to find is some common themes. And that is that iron sharpens iron when it comes to skill set. And it also sharpens iron when you're talking about collaboration and understanding what's going on. We have not lacked change in our industry over the last 5 years, whether it be legislative change or brokerage change. Now we're going through some
You think?
consolidation and change.
It's been pretty stable, I thought, lately.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's changed. I mean, it's no, all kidding aside, it's this, we've gone through more transformative change in the last 5 years than perhaps the last, the 10 or 15 years that led up to that.
Been brutal.
And what I think you're finding now is regardless of who an agent or broker affiliates with, they're coming back to community. They're coming back to community to learn. They're coming back to share ideas, to share business. Because when you think about what we went through in the downturn, I call it the Great Reset of the last couple of years, is nearly 40% of the consumers left housing, just tuned out, said, I'm not buying, I'm not selling, I can't afford it, or I love my mortgage too much to move. So everybody who is serious about their career has had to find new veins of opportunity and go out and find new business. It's not just same agent business being done through database will meet or exceed everyone's goals. We've all had to go out and find new business. And the collaborative value of bringing people together, sharing ideas, we're referring business across multi-state through mobile app and office and engagement every single business day, James. And I think we're back to a place where brick and mortar has a strong purpose, where productive people are realizing that getting in the river of community, getting in an environment, if it wasn't the case, a lot of the alternative model brands out there that were very proud of the virtual world wouldn't have gravitated to brick and mortar. But as you said, many of the agents and brokers in those environments have gone out and gotten their own brick and mortar and collaborate within those environments because they see the value in it. And it just so happens that we never gave up on brick and mortar, so we're kind of ahead of that. We still haven't, but we've consolidated into right size. We've made offices feel and look different, and they're more meeting places than little 10 by 10 boxes that people go and shut a door.
When we're talking about the changes we've made in the last 3 years, and we look forward to what's going to happen in the future with AI coming down the pike, I wrote a white paper almost a year ago on AI because I've been following it very closely for the last 2 or 3 years, and I use it a lot. And I've really have wondered, okay, what is going to happen? And in the white paper, one of the things that I mentioned, or one of the main theses of the white paper, is that basically AI is a psychopath, meaning that it can act like it has feelings, it can act like it has empathy, but it doesn't have those things. So even if they improve AI to the level that seems almost like you're dealing with a human, we are going to know that it is not a human and it doesn't have feelings, and nobody is holding the AI accountable, which is a huge internal moral motivator for human beings to do the right thing. And so I think that actually residential real estate may be one of those businesses that will be disrupted down the way. Now, some people might think that I'm doing some wishful thinking, but I look at how divided this country is right now and the diversion of thought and philosophy about what should happen. And we're not selling insurance. We are selling people's homes. We have people that are buying it, trying to figure out, they all have these different dreams. And agents really do a valuable service of putting deals together. And I just find it hard that machinery is going to be able to do that in the near future, if ever. But that's my thought. What are your thoughts about where you think the real estate business is going to go, and do you think this will have downward pressure on commissions as AI gets better at what it's doing?
Well, there's a lot there, and I think if to dummy this down to the very practical sense, if AI is the new crescent wrench, the mechanic still has to turn the wrench and
Yep.
know what bolt to put the wrench on. I think that AI is changing the need for improvement at an agent level and a brokerage level. I think that
Amen.
if you look at charisma as one of the things that consumers look for, they're influenced by charismatic professional salespeople.
Yep.
Charisma is kind of divided into, you can dissect that down into really two categories: warmth and people skills,
Yep.
and competency.
Yep.
And where that is married together, that can become a charismatic, dynamic salesperson. And
Yep.
no one likes one that lives in either side too much. For example, too much warmth, lacking competence, creates a I need to be liked, and I just want to be liked. Consumers want to be served. Okay, so they're looking for competence, and if more than ever, they have more intellectually capable input now, because they can go to any one of your favorite AI, chat or wherever you want to go and learn all they want to learn about anything. But they're looking to be served in a transaction. An AI or a bot is not going to hand the keys to a first-time buyer that had to fix their credit for 2 years and borrow $12,000 from their grandmother to buy the house and cry when you hand them the keys. And agents need to understand how to build on their lane. Use the AI tools that are there. Become extremely versed in what does a consumer see about them. We'll get on that in a minute. And the properties and neighborhoods and all the different things about them. Understand what the consumer can see so that you can be ahead of it and you can personalize it. I think the biggest problem we see right now is fear at the agent level, thinking, I'm not going to change. I've done it for X amount of years, and I'm just going to ride out my career. Well, a good example of that is try and get yourself on the first page of Google by buying your way there right now. It's not going to
You
happen.
can't do it.
It's driven by AI. It's driven by video content and digital footprint. So agents that don't understand how to build their digital signature, their digital footprint, they could be marketing way off track, spending an awful lot of money that is not going to return an investment. They have to build their digital relevance. Okay? Now, what do you do once you have that customer calling you? Well, you have to realize that they know more than they used to know in most cases. So
Yep.
you got to
Yeah, the
know
real
more.
estate agent isn't the gatekeeper to information like it
No.
used to be 10,
So
15
you have to
years
know
ago.
everything they can know, but that's the wrench. You need
Yep.
to know how to maneuver
Well, a lot of this
with
is
the
going to
wrench.
be judgment too, because even really sophisticated people who are buying or selling real estate, if it's not their particular lane, they still want a competent person to give a nod. Yeah, this makes sense. Doing a level of analysis. And I do think that's just human nature that we are looking for some type of guidance, regardless of the amount of information. Because if you have a lot of information, you have to interpret that information. What's
Well,
real, what's not real.
there's the key. There's the key, James. And I think that knowing that, and certainly as an executive leading an organization where real data and real truth is blurred with large and noisy opinions that can look
Yes.
truthful, but they're
Yep.
not. And truth is truth. I think we're in a time where our overall population of realtors across the country, we already know, is shrinking back to a more manageable size. A lot of people got into it when it felt and looked easy. They made a little bit of money, but they didn't necessarily serve the industry well or the consumer well. And if there's anything to be true about what we've just gone through in the last couple of years of more transparency and consumer-centric behavior, consumers want the truth. And they want to know that the person they're working with understands their fiduciary responsibility and will
Well,
serve them
that
effectively.
all goes back to agent brand. That the agent has a brand of trustworthiness and reliability, which, as you know, a huge portion of our population in the industry does not demonstrate that on a regular basis. And the level of professionalism is low, which means that if you are super professional and you are trustworthy and you can play the long game, people can do really, really well in this particular industry.
Well, and I think I agree with you. And I think one of the things that's coming back into play, which I'm very excited about, is the value of leadership. And I'm not talking necessarily executive leadership. I think that
I,
goes without saying. I'm
I
talking
agree
about
100%, by the way. I've been thinking about leadership a lot too. Sorry to interrupt, but I
no,
agree
it is
100%.
a lane that we should probably spend a couple of minutes on because leadership blurred into the sea of whatever we dealt with in the last 5 or 6 years. And quite frankly, some of it was earned by leadership that just disengaged. And so, what's better, no leader or a disengaged leader?
Yep.
That's an argument. True leadership, and I'm talking about people. I have made my career leading sales organizations and sales and marketing organizations. Perhaps I could have made more money at times being a team leader and just being very focused on a client base. But I chose to spread my gifts, if you will, or my focus across a larger landscape to help people be their very best within an environment, learn how to win, and go out and serve at a high level. And then I'm very fairly rewarded for that personally and professionally. That being said, I think leadership is going to become a desired path for many back into real estate, where you're going to see a new breed of leader coming in that wants to be that resource, that wants to help a team win. And you're seeing some of that in team
Well,
leadership now
but
rising.
leadership is also what we're doing with the client because the client has to be led.
They have to be led. And so leadership is at all levels of the organization. And I think that in many cases, there's been such a loud megaphone of leaders don't matter, peer to peer to peer to peer. And yes, iron sharpening iron at a peer level is wonderful, but there's a time for someone to come in and say, okay, everybody just listen to what I've just learned and I want to share with you, and let's go out and see how this could work for each of you. And then everybody's kind of entrepreneurial spirit will take that knowledge and run with it and use it as they will. I think we're in a time where leadership really matters. I think
Yeah.
models are going to have to come back in alignment where leadership is more present because
Yep.
agents need it in order to be effective with consumers. They need to
Well,
know
let's
what they
talk
need to
about
know.
NAR. They just announced that you don't have to join NAR to participate in MLS anymore. Of course, they want to avoid potential class action lawsuits. But I would guess that there's going to be a chunk of people who do not pay those dues in the future. People who feel like they don't have to follow the rules of NAR. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing so long as people have a strong moral compass and are doing the right thing. But it is going to splinter the business. And then you have these lawsuits that Compass has with Zillow around cooperation and required cooperation. And so give me your insight on what's going to happen or what your thoughts are, your predictions are, what's going to happen with the cooperation lawsuit that Compass has going on with Zillow and a few other types of organizations.
Yeah, I'll be very careful in my answer, James, that I don't speak with any kind of a legal opinion. I can tell you that here's what I believe, and maybe this is going to answer it a little bit indirectly. I believe we have to stay fixated on the end. I mean, if you read business books going back into the late 80s and the early 90s, you probably remember a great business writer by the name of Stephen Covey. And Stephen Covey's
Yep.
whole principle of
7
leadership
habits. Yep.
was begin with the end in mind.
Yep.
Okay. So everything going on right now, there's a lot of things that are in flux and in process. But what is the end result that we want to see? And my whole leadership
Are you
mindset,
speaking as an industry or as an organization?
all of the above, all of the above.
Okay.
I think the industry has to be looking down the road. The decisions that are being made along the way are shaping what will happen in the coming years in the industry. Here's what I know to be true. What got us into the last round of challenge was the perception that we were anti-consumer and anti-transparent with consumer. The more we get into the industry and we get fixated on trying to fix what we think is broken within the industry and the flow of information within the industry, and we don't think about it from a complete and entire consumer perspective, the more we're signing ourselves up to be in a problem down the road where the consumer says, "Why, that's changed a lot, but it doesn't feel very pro-consumer to me."
Yeah, but Keith, you can't organize this industry one bit. Everyone's got a different opinion. Everyone's got big egos. I mean, how
Agreed.
many MLSs do we have? 560 MLSs
Well,
in
I
the
think the
country?
number of MLSs and the role of the MLS is a fair conversation. And I think that
Yeah.
conversation is probably necessary to have and figure out the effective way for MLS and forget MLS for a minute. That's
Yeah,
an
but the whole thing on the
institutional.
MLSs is nobody wants to give up the power that they have over their individual tiny MLS.
No, I get it. And so you have a tug of war going on at the MLS level. You have
Yep.
NAR trying to weigh in, trying to figure out how to be kind of in a neutral zone, and then you have companies taking on their motivated agendas. And,
Yep.
and I don't give an opinion of those companies and their agendas. So I'm just saying, in the end, I've been in sales and marketing and consumer marketing and branding for 38 years. And I will finish my career in the lane of consumer branding and marketing, selling things, and we sell an awful lot of houses. I don't want to lose sight that the consumer wants to be served. And we have to figure out mechanically how to get along in the industry to serve the consumer. And I think, just like you said, that we're a divided nation and we could go down that road, but we won't. We're a divided industry right now as well. We have strong opinions trying to pull us into one lane or the other. And my whole lane is I am not taking my eyes off of the consumer and helping our agents serve the consumer. And yes, data is a big argument. I kind of feel like the argument of data has already been lost, in my opinion, with AI.
Meaning what?
access-
Meaning what?
that holding on to the consumer and holding on so tightly that we're not wanting it to be, a home out there on the market or an opportunity out there. I think consumers want to know what the market has to offer. They want to be able to intelligently make a decision. They want to have a professional that serves them in buying or selling their transaction. And the data is not necessarily what the consumer wants to be. The consumer does not want to be data. They want to be a client.
Yeah, just a thought that comes across my mind as you're talking, that we have 2 million real estate agents in the United States. I think 1.5 are a part of NAR currently, somewhere along those lines, maybe a little bit less. And there are some statistics that came out in last year that in 2024, over 70% did not sell one house. Okay, so as you know, we have about 2 million people in the United States that has a real estate license. We have somewhere around 1.5, maybe a little bit less, that are a part of NAR. And last year, it was reported that over 70% did not sell one home. And one of my theories on this is usually it's about half do not sell a home. And we're talking about the data and the gatekeeping, if you will, that actually, I believe, supports lower skilled agents to be able to potentially make a sale. And with the lawsuit against NAR, where people have to actually have a contract signed before they show property, where the buyer is saying, I'm willing to pay you tens of thousands of dollars out of my own pocket if the seller doesn't pay it, has created this scenario where the skilled agents who have a brand or have the ability to articulate value to the consumer and get a contract signed is eliminating those people who do not have that ability. So I could see as we become more splintered, which is what I believe is going to happen, those people with a better brand and those people with their skills developed to a higher level is going to collect more of the business, and we will see the scenario where the rich get richer and the poor get poor. And I think it's an interesting phenomenon, but I think it's actually good for the consumer because they're going to be getting a higher level of service. Ideally, that's what my hope. What are your thoughts around those opinions?
I have to agree with everything you said, and I think that, maybe the rich getting richer will be the more professional getting wealthier as they serve
Bingo.
more consumers. And I think the consumer will benefit because they will truly have a professional serving them instead of an opportunist. And, when you think about, there's an old saying, there's enough business for everyone. And I will loudly say, in the last 3 years, there has not been enough business for everyone to survive because more people got into it for the wrong reasons. Therefore, the pie, if you will, was cut to such a challenge that you have people fighting over quality. It's kind of like, I say it this way, and I'm not pretty bold when I talk in front of our agents. Imagine this. Imagine that you have a real serious health challenge to solve. And your kids are at a soccer field. And everybody, there's 5 people that think they have a lot of knowledge about what you're dealing with, but none of them are a medical doctor. But they all have a little bit of a background, in some kind of a, and they're all giving you opinions. They're all giving you opinions saying, James, I can solve that for you. I can help you with that. Don't pay the doctor, pay me, come over here, drink this, eat this, take these, do this. And you have a serious problem that needs a medical opinion. And you're so blurred by the noise of people trying to help you, in good faith, trying to help you, that you don't get to the professional that you really need. We are at a place when someone's buying or selling real estate, and as it gets more expensive and harder to get into the into the housing market and first-time buyers and everything, you need someone that has resources. You want someone that can help you maneuver through, answer the questions, negotiate effectively, say no when no needs to be said on your behalf. Ask the right questions, understand disclosures, understand how to read reports, title reports, everything. And someone that dabbles, whether it be in real estate or in medical or any other industry, does not have the depth of knowledge for the market that we're in. So I say
we're just going to become more like the commercial end because most of the guys in commercial, they know what they're doing. The vast majority of them know what they're doing. They specialize in warehouse or office. There's not a whole bunch of general practitioners.
And they know how to ask for their compensation at the appropriate time. They know how to do that. And
and they're bringing value at the same time. Like they're
100%.
able to do that. So it's really hard to ask for compensation when internally in your heart, you're not really providing any. Like most people are raised by good parents who say that you've got to do the right thing. And I think a lot of agents struggle with the fact that they know that they're a really good 10th or 11th choice. They're not even in the top 5 choice.
Yeah.
And so when you're asking for compensation, when you know that you're kind of at the bottom of the rung, it doesn't feel good. So it creates feelings that are incongruent with what your desire is for a check and your ethical, moral compass, which is telling you have to do the right thing for the consumer. And I think that's a part of what the problem is for a lot of
it is, and that's why it's no surprise to me that the industry failed at a macro level with 30% success and 70% failure at a macro level. But some professionals are having their best season in their career because they are being recognized for what they've earned. Hard work, axe grinding, if you will, to become a very, very amazing resource to the consumers. And I think it goes back to your question. AI is making people smarter, a little harder to fake it till you make it in this business,
Yeah.
James.
So to me, and I'm in Florida now, as you know, but CAR, I think one of the greatest values that CAR, California Association of Realtors, provided was the contracts that they write that deal with all the most recent lawsuits and creates protections for the consumer and protects the agents and the brokers alike. Maybe it's the state level organizations that will have more power, because I'm not really sure what NAR is going to provide that's of value beyond the contracts, which I think are well worth $1,000 a year or more. The contracts are amazing, at least from CAR. I don't know where they are with
Yeah,
the
and we operate in multiple states, so I can tell you, James, that I see contracts from multiple states, and I will say every one of the states, I think, have done a pretty good job of interpreting, how to facilitate the transaction and all of the components of a transaction. But I agree with you 100%. I think that yet again, like an agent having to establish and reestablish their value, all of the entities within the businesses that we intertwine with us have to establish relevant value. And
Yep.
I don't believe that we can lawsuit ourselves into a business that we like in the future. I think we have to work together to find the best solutions for the consumers. Everyone has to be understanding that they're not going to get paid if they don't provide value. I don't care where you are in the process of the housing market. You better provide value in order to expect to be paid, and then be paid fairly, and make sure it's fully transparent and fully negotiable, as all of the laws state. But no, the value of the contract, and that goes back to the earlier point I just made. If someone is out on a soccer field only selling the houses that they can insert themselves into by proximity, how much do they really even understand the 100 pages that might make up a residential contract in the state of California?
How many agents do you think actually have read the contract? I mean, percentage wise. What I'll give you my number after you give me your number.
My God, I don't even know if I want to give you a number, but I can tell you what I would hope it would be, which would be 100%, and I know that's not realistic. What I will tell you,
Oh my
though,
God, you're such a politician, Keith.
let me tell you something.
My God, you should run for office.
No, that's 10 years from now. So here's the thing. I believe it's a responsibility of any brokerage or entity to figure out that problem for their associates and to create an environment where they can learn and be well equipped. We work really hard at that across Gold Nation. I think you know that we're very committed to our broker, our risk management programs, and interpreting all of that, giving it back in bite-sized form to our agents are very well prepared to understand. But I think it also comes back to, if you only do 1 or 2 deals a year, how familiar are you with the process and the successful process? If you're doing an average of $4 or $5 million a year in sales or more, 10 or 12 deals, you're getting far more at bats where you're having to answer the questions and you're having to go through the contract. And then I think the CARs and the state boards have created really nice paths that if you just kind of follow the numbers in the contract, you can build a very, very tight contract and really protect the consumer well. And I think that's what we got to get back to, is realizing that's part of what we're getting paid for. You want to get paid and you want to be paid fairly, then you got to earn that and you got to become more knowledgeable in order to be worthy of it.
Let's get back to a couple of topics that I'd love to have your opinion on. I'm not so sure how much you'll share in this venue, but couple of things. We had the Compass Anywhere merger. And I know a few people in leadership there. That's a really incredible merger from a distance. But I think merging those cultures is going to be a really interesting thing, particularly because you have company-owned stores and then you have franchises. I mean, Anywhere was, it's a soup of a whole bunch of different ingredients, where Compass is a really strong brand. They have really strong agents. They have a good, strong consumer brand, but it's straight down the middle. The colors are all the same. There's not a lot of variance from what I can see from the consumer level, at least the way that the consumer perceives the Compass organization. And that just seems to be a really interesting way to buy market. And that's what Compass has done. They've bought agents, they've bought companies, and it's paid off for them. I think they're worth about 9 or 10 million on the stock market, which is, according to Warren Buffett, a voting machine. It's not a weighing machine. And then I wonder if that has much effect on not your parent company, but your franchisor, who has lost a lot of value in the stock market, somewhere around 60%. I think they're about at 500 million, and they're down today just over 200 million. It's up a little bit, I think, from the last few weeks. How does that affect you? Two things. You can jump into any part of this thing, but I'm interested on what you think about that merger as someone on the outside, and how they might merge those two companies and those two cultures together. If you were running it per se, not as being someone critical, but how would you handle that? And then how do you think that merger is potentially affecting the Remax brand as a whole, or as the franchise or?
Yeah, well, that could be a topic of another session, because there's a lot there. But I think, just to be clear, Remax is a franchise organization and the most powerful consumer recognized brand over 53 years in the world. 120 countries, 150,000 associates make up that Remax brand, and we partner with the brand. The brand doesn't own us, and so we're independently owned and independently led. So we're on our own path using that brand that the consumer knows. Over 10 million transactions have been done worldwide since 2020 with the Remax brand. I was just in Las Vegas this week with the convention, and that number was shared. There is no company that has sold 10 million transactions since 2020. Now, let's talk about what's going on with Compass and Anywhere. You have very fine companies in amongst that whole merger and acquisition. I think it's more of an acquisition than a merger, but we'll see how that all plays out. You said something that companies.
So you don't think they're going to merge them together? They're just going to acquire.
Yeah, let me give you a thought on that, because you said merging of companies and buying of
cultures,
companies and cultures and agents. I immediately, because I've lived in this world in the wireless business in the past, so I know a little bit about this. You got to be really careful to handle the agent and the culture as a high priority, because agents have choice. They're independent contractors. And although collectively they add a lot of value and you can create something very spectacular conceptually, it's how does this stick together over time? How much change is too much change too fast? None of us know what the playbook is going to be for that. We only hear what we hear. And so conceptually, you're going to continue to see these companies operate as individual brands, like many companies in industry and other industries. You got a lot of brands that roll up to one ownership group. That's fine. But where the rubber will hit the road is, how does the consolidation or the efficiencies of that relationship start playing into what the agent experiences? For example, you don't find millions and millions and millions of hundreds of millions of dollars of operational efficiency without some kind of change somewhere. So that's what has to be handled very, very carefully. And I think that we're all going to have to watch that over time, is how does the agent feel about that? Do they feel as though they still are in the right place? They'll have to figure that out. So we're really taking this as an opportunity, James, to really continue to kind of double down on our value. And we're not going through a merger. We're not going through a transition. We are the brand. We're 33 years old as an independent company. We're with a brand that's 53 years old. We have some stats and market position that allows us to go toe to toe. And I think we have to fight toe to toe for market share. We have to help the agents that carry the balloon win the business and be able to articulate to the consumer why they're the right choice to serve them. And I think we're all going to watch what happens with this merger and perhaps other mergers that come down the pike when, how is it handled respectfully? Is there breakage? Is there brands that don't make the long-term playbook? Who knows, right? We don't know, and it's going to be interesting. But if you have 5 different companies, for example, in a 2-block area and 5 leaders and 300 agents, at some point, do they start working together, or do they continue to work competitively against each other? That's going to be fascinating to watch.
Okay, Keith, we've been talking about 50 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, and I know you're busy and I want you to get back to what you're doing. But before you go, can you give the audience a lesson on acquiring potentially other brokerages and teams, and how do those numbers work? So if I was a team leader and I wanted to acquire another team that's doing $20 million in business, let's say I'm doing 40 and I wanted to acquire a team, what do you think the value of that team might be, or what is the formula that you would use? What are some of the things that have to be in the contract for that? Because I think we're going to see some more consolidation of these types of things as we move forward. And it's a fascinating world that I think very few people understand. I kind of understand it, but not really. But I know you're an expert at it. And so I would love to have you kind of walk us through, if someone was a team leader and they wanted to acquire another team, what would that look like?
Yeah, well, I think first off, and this has nothing to do with money, you have to look at the business DNA. Is there common thread DNA? Meaning, can you see a path where both entities could exist together and effectively move forward? And if you can answer that question, then you go to the next step, which is evaluating the quality and or the profitability of that organization or team. For the sake of this conversation, we'll talk about an office and a team in the same context, if you will. But there's really 3 clients there's 3 stakeholders that have to be equally considered. First is who's on the team, the agents, the people. It goes back to how I answered a previous question about mergers in general, is that people want to be respected in all cases. So you have to see who's on the team. And is there a way that their DNA, their business mindsets and DNA will align in some kind of a cross-pollinated go-forward strategy? So is it good for the people on the team? And then we have to look at the team leader. And we have to say, okay, the team leader or the office leader or the broker owner, if you're talking about a small company, what are they trying to accomplish? And how can we best accomplish that with them? And then thirdly, it has to make prudent business sense. It has to make financial sense. We're all businesses at all layers in the organization, and we need to stop apologizing for being good business people. But we have to prove that we're good business people first by respecting all the parties and all the people. Then you have to find out what is the problem to solve or the problems to solve. And by doing this merger or this sale or this acquisition, are we going to solve their problems and create a cohesive team to move forward? And then is there a financial benefit or at least a financial aspect that works in the program? I will tell you that I've evaluated many companies, many teams where there is not those 3 questions answered effectively. There's no money to be shared. There's not a match for DNA, and there's not a clear understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. My feeling would be when you hit that wall, don't pass go. Sit there until you can answer those questions, because you can't get 3/4 of the way down the road or even all the way down the road and assume that everybody on the team is going to be happy with this just because it's going to work for me, the team leader or the broker owner. If it falls apart at the point of transition or the onboarding falls apart, then the value, whatever valuation you gave it, has just been blown up. So when you look at this, you've got to be able to keep those things in check in order for, now you look at the financials. If it's a company, you're going to look at 1 to 2 years of true financials. You need to pull out the commissions that might have been shared within the company from the broker owner that might have been putting some of their own money in directly in to run
Yeah,
the
they're
organization.
keeping it alive through their own sales.
You've got to pull that out.
Yeah.
And then you've got to look very starkly at what is the value of this organization. There's a lot of valuation mindset out there that says in a healthy market, a predictable market, real estate companies can trade hands anywhere from 2, 3, 4, or 5 time multipliers. Okay? But
Of owner benefit?
you have to be able to set an EBITDA value. What is the value at what is the transparent value? And then you can discuss ways of structuring relationships where you have multipliers or earnouts or periods of time where you're going to share revenue and a partnership. A lot of different ways to structure those relationships. The key is we cannot lose sight of who's most important. The agents in the organization, the people that are handing it off or partnering in, and then the company that's going to be ultimately responsible to continue it into the future. We can't have breakage anywhere. So we really got to know what we're doing. And I see an awful lot of deals that are being created and hear about these deals that don't make DNA sense. You've got one model over here that might be an alternative model that is a low margin model. Then you've got a traditional company over here that has tremendous value and they've got a lot of structured cost, and so people pay a little more because they want that relationship. And how do you merge those together? How do you keep this one from polluting this one, or this one from influencing this one? So it's not for the novice, to be honest, because these are people's lives, and in many cases, the hardest thing for me, James, is to meet with a business owner who maybe's put 10, 15, 20 years of their life into something. And based on the last couple of years and the stats you shared a little while ago, 70% ineffective agenting, there's no value to talk about. We have no value here. So what we have to do doesn't say
It's got to be that's got to be devastating to some
It's sad because, and a lot of people don't have a succession plan. They don't have a family member or a partner, a great agent within their organization that's ready to carry the torch forward. They have to find an off-ramp somehow. And the hardest part is to help them see that what they built doesn't have traditional value like a coffee shop would have or whatever other business we're talking about. But there are some agents there. So now we talk about an alternative model, James, where we talk more about how do we share revenue for a period of time on the agents that are going to join our company and become part of our company going forward. And then we really do try and find a happy place where the owner or the broker owner or the team leader feels like they've been respected. They're earning an annuity check based on the performance of the people that are selling real estate. And we find a way to make that work. If there's that common DNA where we know we can retain those agents and help them get on to their next level of success.
Do you have a CAC or a client acquisition cost, meaning an agent acquisition cost for your recruiting process? Is that a part of your model? And if so, what is that? Is it 1,000? Is it 6,000? Is it like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the industry has really kind of played with that with, different rev shares and different things. I will tell you that you cannot grow an organization without investment. You have to invest. Now, whether you're investing in deferred revenue that you're going to receive down the road when someone gets past a transitional period, some companies choose writing checks. We don't really prescribe to that thinking. They'll write checks, they'll buy market share, and they'll put them into longer contracts. That's not what we do. We really believe that, we want someone not because they're going to give us immediate value, but we want to build a long-standing bridge of relationship for many, many years to come. And so to do that, there has to be an investment, and that investment can look differently. I think if you have a predictable revenue based on your model, whatever company you are representing or environment you're representing, you know what the average agent pays you in that organization for that year. And you have to say, okay, how much of that would I be willing to invest one way or another to get another quality person on board? And how do I get another quality person on board?
How would you guys look? What would, on a percentage basis, what would you guys look at that if you're acquiring?
I'm just going to put a number.
So let's
out
say
there.
the retained commission is 20,000 of an agent. What is that if you're securing that person in? you got to have a lifetime value that you think that agent's going to have. Potentially, there's a risk, so there's a discount model for, because you may or may not keep them. But how, and let's not say this is the way Remax School looks at it, just so that you don't get yourself into trouble. But
Yeah.
how do you think the industry, that's people that are out buying business, what do you think they look at retained commission on average? What is the value of that looking forward in a discount model, let's say?
Yeah, I think if we're talking about buying businesses, that's kind of a broad example of the diversity that our industry has. I think we have to be careful to try and categorize that. Let's go back to the scenario that you gave me. If a single agent is going to be worth $20,000 a year, let's just say, how much should a company
in retained dollars,
in retained dollars.
commissions? Yep.
Yeah. I mean, how much should one be willing to invest? And I think there's a lot of different methodologies. It depends on where you are in your life cycle. If you're in a growth cycle where you're really trying to grow, and I think any good company right now should be in a growth mindset, then I think you should be willing to invest a large portion of what you could make on that first year in order to make a transition work. So whether that be in deferred splits, or whether that be in covering some transitional costs, whatever it is, some advanced marketing money, whatever you need to do, you should be willing to do that, as long as you know that the end game is going to be a good match and you're going to have a long run. We enjoy very low attrition in general in our company, and so I can predict that's going to be worth X over a period of time. But really, it's more about that moment of time to build that relationship, and not letting a few dollars be the reason why we don't forge a relationship forward. Let's build the relationship. We'll all benefit into the future. And that's also a little bit of confidence in knowing that what you do is worthy. And you just got to get them into the system, and they're going to find their footing once they get here. And you're going to have leadership support and staff support, making sure that onboarding and that launch forward is just nails.
Yep. Well, Keith, with that, this has been just a great conversation. You should be very proud of what you have accomplished. I consider you an absolute expert in the industry, and I think you have demonstrated that clearly today as you've shared your opinion on many things. I consider myself blessed to have you as someone that I can call as a friend. You always pick up my call. You always return my call, and I greatly appreciate that. And I just want to tell you that I'm very thankful that you were able to make time and willing to come on and have a conversation with us. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you and your time, and happy to come back at any time. If what I know and what I've learned can be of value, I'm always willing to share. And then it's left to what one will do with it. And I think we're in a fascinating time as an industry. We're in an exciting time, and I think where we go from here is going to be strap in, pop the popcorn, and it's going to be a heck of a ride.
That's for sure. Thank you, Keith, so much.
Thank you.